Today, Julie, I thought we would have a really good chat about values in action. So, what it is that we do ourselves, we practice what we preach, and also put into other people's companies around bringing the values to life and not being that dreaded thing from the 1980s where they go on the wall with the chairman and such like. But the reason why I thought of this is I saw a great quote today from Simon Sinek, and it said, values are a verb. They are things that we do. And I thought, that's interesting because a lot of people would say we have company values and not actually do company values. So with that in mind, I have like a quick, I don't know, maybe a 5 round quick fire question for
Oh,
you.
right.
So I'm going to start with our favorite exercise, and you know which one I'm talking about because we do it all the time. When I say all the time, actually, we do this when we have company offsites, away days. It's not every week, but it is a beautiful exercise. So Julie, just talk through us what we do every time we get the team together, bearing in mind we're a remote team as well, so we don't always get a chance to be together, so it's a great way to kickstart our meetings.
Thank you. And also, I am excited to be talking about values because I absolutely think they are fundamental. So, what we do is we revisit our values, like you said, at every offsite. And what we ask the team to do is we put the values on the screen and we say, turn to the person on your right and explain to them at a time that you've seen them display one of our values, which one it was, and how they showed up and how that showed out in the business. And it is a beautiful thing to witness.
Mm.
It is a way that's, I feel, normalizing feedback. It makes it super positive. And also, I've witnessed it when I've implemented it at a training with a client. And just to say to someone, give that person feedback and it's on values as well. It is lovely to hear how someone else appreciates you, thinks how you show up, and it's fundamentally just reinforcing your values, but it's just a really good team bonding exercise for me.
Yeah, it is. It's the bonding to kind of go, I see you. I see
Yeah.
you living these values. But it's a great way of just talking about the values and having that lovely, it is, it's bonding. And I can't say we've ever done it without tears because usually there's somebody who gets emotional. And it's that I feel seen. I didn't know
Yeah.
that you saw me live that
I'm
value.
appreciated and
Yeah,
in a way that I did not expect or know. Because
yeah,
normally, what the person is saying to them, it's not normally the big projects or the great big kind of call out wins that they've done. It's normally about the small stuff
yeah, yeah.
and the things that they didn't even think was on their radar. And it's such a lovely way to set up a day with your team as an offsite. It sets the tone for the day. You're revisiting your values, you're living and breathing them. And if you don't do this in your business, I highly recommend you do, because as from a business owner and a second in command's point of view, to witness it gives you a gauge on where you are with your values and if there's any gaps and what you need to do. But normally it's just a lovely thing to witness.
Yeah. And it's a great way to that kickstart an offsite because it's a great positive way to start the day. Okay, let's move on. Now, we talk a lot about having company scorecards or your dashboard. This is a great tool for accountability and building that culture of accountability, but also for our perspective is having that finger on the pulse. Where's the business? Where are all our numbers? And are we on track, off track? Are the trends going in the wrong direction or the right direction? But we include company values on our scorecard. So tell us about that.
So scorecards are normally and should be quite hard metrics. You're either on or off track. But again, you're missing a trick to bring in your values week to week. So in a team meeting where we review our scorecard, everybody has a number, everybody has a scorecard from their department. Why wouldn't you reinforce your values every week on that team call when you've got all your team together? Values is sometimes seen as the fluffy kind of side of the business. It's not. Again, it's fundamentally how people show up, their behaviors, and what's expected. It should be so much on your scorecard, hence why it's on ours. So you've got kind of your hard metrics at the top, which is absolutely what you need for that accountability. But at the bottom of each of ours, we have what we call the big picture. And that is where we have some of our company-wide metrics. And one of them is, are you reinforcing and showing up within CHS values? And it's not just something that's on there that's not checked. When we go through it, it's something, when I facilitate that meeting, it's something that I cover off.
I think for me as well is that, I often say there's no such thing as a difficult conversation. And the reason for that is if you have your scorecard, everybody knows what's expected of them. You're having the conversation week in, week out. Are you on track, off track? So you're not going to somebody and saying, hey, we have a difficult conversation because your sales aren't where they should be, because you've been talking about it every week in the team meeting and then in one-to-ones. And it's the same for values. How many times do we have people come to us and say, oh, how do I deal with this? Because I need to have a difficult conversation about somebody's values. And then
behavior. Yeah.
Yeah, that's driven from those values. But if you're talking about it week out, you're reinforcing what's expected, what's acceptable behavior, what's not acceptable behavior, it's not a difficult question. Now, for clarity, we're going to come on to one-to-ones, because I wouldn't necessarily, it's when and where to pull people up. So the team meeting is about the conversation, but if there is an issue, you do that in a one-to-one, which we're going to come to.
I mean, if a member of the team has on their scorecard that they're 100% showing up and reinforcing values, and we know they're not, or there is evidence that they're not, then that is definitely something that I wouldn't bring forward in the team meeting. But in a one-to-one, which we'll come on to, you've already got the information that they believe that they are showing up. So it's a conversation. It's a missed opportunity if you don't then have that conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And then also let's go back to kind of where it all starts, which is like the recruitment and the onboarding, because I get it so often where people say they're desperate to have a member of staff, and they'll say to me, and then deep down, I know they're not a culture fit. I'm like, a culture always wins.
Prompts everything.
Absolutely. And it's all you're doing is pushing that pain down the road and making it bigger. So let's have some examples, or even tell us what we do in our recruitment when someone first applies for a job with us.
We changed this quite a few years ago, didn't we? Because for us, culture is so important. And because we're a remote workforce as well, it's even more important that whoever we bring into the team is a really good fit. So we kind of realized that for us, CVs are, I just feel like a CV, they all look exactly the same. They're like a boilerplate. I'm not learning anything about that person. So we went to online application forms where we set the questions, and we set quite a few questions which were around our values and culture. And by getting them answering some of the fundamental questions, so for example, what are the pros and cons for a remote workforce?
What about making a mistake as well? That's one of our ones that we like. We want to attract people who will take ownership, have that integrity, and want to be accountable. The question is, tell us about a time that you made a mistake. How did it make you feel? What did you do about it? And then what's different? And before we hit record today, we were just saying, weren't we, that I bet people will think, oh yeah, but people will just answer what you want them to hear. It's amazing how people answer that question. And the same about the remote workforce. And we can just take out so many applications based on 4 or 5 questions around our culture and values. We don't even look at the CV until that point.
Not even skimming a CV, right at the point where I will take that candidate forward for first telephone interview. I may then glance at the CV. Everything for me is about that application form. And like you said, there may be a lot of people listening maybe go, well, they're going to write this application form knowing that you're going to read it, so they're going to put the best foot forward. There will be something within there, if it's not quite right, a red flag that you will pick up on. And all it's doing is giving you insight for you to then on that first interview or the further interview to delve deeper, to understand potentially why they answered it in that way. And you do that through questioning. So I'm not saying that application form your person is there and there's no further work to do. There is definitely, it just gives you insight and more knowledge and information to go forward with your questioning and digging deeper into why they said certain things. And I believe if we look at the team we've got now, is why we've got the team that we've got, because we really did the work. And recruitment is not easy. It
No,
takes
it's
up a
not.
lot of time, but if it's going to take you that much time anyway, so why wouldn't you put the work in and really make sure they're aligned with your values? Skills,
Yeah.
I believe, can be taught, but culture and your behaviors and how you show up, that's fundamentally who you are.
Yeah, yeah. And actually, just as an aside for anyone watching this thinking, oh, it is a lot of work, the best way to do that is go straight into ChatGPT or a similar AI tool, put in your company values and saying, give me 3 questions on each value that I might ask a candidate that will test whether they're a match for this specific value. And what you want is the tell me about a time type questions, not do you have this value? Because that's just a yes or no. One thing that I was making some notes before we decided to record this around, okay, leading by example and also making decisions. And I do think that making decisions is where you lead by example. So do you make a decision to tolerate behavior that's not aligned with your values? That is you not leading by example. Do you take on clients that are I'm not suggesting that we only want clients that meet all of our values, but you've certainly got to have that go, no go, like this. So I think that leading by example, I was trying to think like, what does that mean, leading by example? But I think it's in the decisions that you make. If your values are an action word, they're a doing thing, then we have to do and live that by the decisions that we make, with it by hiring, keeping, firing, customers, clients, staff, everything. Do we, even instance, choose as suppliers? And that's becoming more and more in terms of CSR and the environment and all that kind of thing is becoming more prolific, if you like, in that sense. Now, I want to finish off on one-to-ones, because how often again do we get people say to us, what do we do in a one-to-one? And there's a lot to a great, empowering, inspiring one-to-one, but it is an opportunity to talk about values, especially if you do want to have that conversation around someone's behavior not being exactly where you want it to be. So let's talk about, where's my box? Our conversation cards. We absolutely love these. These are great conversations to have, designed for your business owner and second in command. But we do have some questions in here about vision and values. So which you give me your favourite and I'll give you mine.
Oh, okay. Okay. So the 2 we've got, which of our company values do you think we're living well and which need more attention?
And that's a great question to have with your team. It's great in a number of ways. One, you might hear something surprisingly good that you didn't, cover things. 2, it could be, well, I don't think that we are. And that's then a great and very important conversation to have. It could be, oh, I'm not. And again, I'm not up for values being something that people have to recite. And I don't believe in tricking people. Like, it's great to go, here are our company values, reflect on them. Which do you think we're living well? And I think that's a great conversation to have with the team.
For us, Emma, that question out to the team makes us kind of reflect, going, have us as a business moved on? Are these values still appropriate? Are they still relevant? Do the team resonate with them? And if they don't, then they need to be looked at, because just because you set them 6 months ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever that is, it doesn't mean as your business grows and you move forward as a business that they're still relevant. And again, we always say it as well, the value should not be set by you and then me as the second in command and then just team, these are our values, now live by them. It is definitely an exercise you do as a company with your team.
And then, so finally, it's kind of the same question, but it's more on a one-to-one. So the one I love is, and this is great if you do want to have what you might deem a difficult conversation on a one-to-one. It's, of our values, which do you believe that you are demonstrating the most? And when you can have a conversation around that. And then more importantly is, well, not more importantly, equally important is, of our company values, which one do you think needs the most attention? And again, like, we've asked that question and it's amazing. Oh, definitely this one. It's like the honesty, they go like, I definitely struggle with that sometimes. And it's like, that's great. Let's talk about it. And then it does, okay, I appreciate that, but let's talk about these behaviors, because whilst you're very good of you to open and honestly say that that's the one you least resonate with, we can't tolerate this behavior that comes from that. So how do we deal with that behavior? Because you can't tell somebody to have certain values or to intrinsically share your values, but you can talk about the behaviors and respecting them and living them, and that whole values in action piece. So I think I love those two questions in our one-to-one cards.
Here. I mean, I think for me there, Emma, it's kind of more than that as well, because you can't, what I see, and I go into clients like you do, and we just see it out there on all the social medias, is they have just words as a value. Right. What does that mean? How does someone show up? How does someone live and breathe that? It's just a word. It doesn't. So values for me, with all of our values, we have a clarifying strapline that actually clearly clarifies what the behavior is you need to show up and display. But that's another thing that you need to do, is you need to provide clarity, because if you just give 5 words, they don't mean anything.
Yeah.
And then you expect people to show up. And I think the other thing that we do about not having difficult conversations, and when you're bringing them into your one-to-ones, if you're reinforcing your values at all of these important touch points, so like your big team meetings, your offsites, your one-to-ones, it's just embedded in your culture. And they don't become difficult, because the team, especially our team, know that values is going to be discussed at certain places, and it becomes fabric.
And I think finally something we wanted to touch on was that for us, this might not be right for everybody, but we have kind of one value that trumps all others. So one of our values is about being passionate and doing the work with energy and loving what we do. And our other value, we've got a number of them, but one of them is also around integrity. And we had a conversation about going, oh, could people use our values against us? So an example would be a salesperson saying, oh, I discounted that product because I was passionate about it and I wanted to get it over the line and I wanted to make that sale and I did it with passion. It's like, but did you do it with integrity? You know, because we have a policy, if you like, about never negotiating on price so that everybody pays the same. And it's something that we've always lived by. So it's kind of, oh, just check with your values, and that strapline helps and say, well, that's not really what this says, is it? Or this isn't the explanation. Or do you have one value that trumps the others? So there we have it, our top tips on living and breathing your values. And just remember that, as Simon Sinek said, values are a verb. It is something that we do. Please leave a comment below. We'd love to hear what you think. And if you've got other ideas, we'd love to hear them too. See you soon.
I just like having a chat and a cup of tea with you, Emma. So yeah, we're all good.
Always good.